So that's all for me. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Emily Ropars, and welcome to What's Happening in Illinois. This was formerly called Conversation Stations, but we're doing a little different format, so we're hoping we can meet everyone's needs. Before I introduce our panel, I just want to tell you a couple of announcements. I want to personally invite you tonight to our showing at 5 o'clock of No Small Matter. It's a documentary that's about us. It's about how important early childhood is. It's very, very powerful. People are doing previews around the state and around the country, so I invite you to join us for that this evening. It's free. And then just before that, right at 5 o'clock, we are going to be acknowledging two representatives that have supported us in passing SJR 21. which is a resolution that is supporting the inclusion of children with disabilities in high-quality early childhood settings. We will be acknowledging Senator Tracy and Representative Villa tonight. So we're really, really thrilled that we're going to be able to acknowledge them in person today. And that will be right at the start of No Small Matter. So we have lots to celebrate tonight. So today, how it's going to work is we have a panel presentation here. We have dignitaries from various entities in Illinois, and they're each going to share with you highlights of what's new from their agency's perspective. We're going to hold questions during the panel, and after they're completed, we're going to move to a coffee talk setup where they're going to join you, and there's other representatives from other entities like Illinois State Board of Education. And at that time, you can ask your questions. You can feel free to move around the room. If you want to be at one table for the full 45 minutes, that's wonderful. If you have lots of questions for different folks, feel free to get up and move as needed. In front of you on your place, you have a purple piece of paper that's a diagram of the room set up so you know which topics are at each table. So thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to our first speaker, Dr. Christina Passione-Zayas, who is the Associate Policy Director at Erickson Institute.
Okay. Or I come up?
You can say it.
Oh, okay. All right. Good afternoon. Really excited to be here to share with you all just a really quick overview of our first ever inaugural for the state of Illinois Risk and Reach report. Several states across our country have done this, and we were fortunate enough to come together with some additional partners and support from foundations to create the Illinois version of this report. I'm going to talk about this quickly so that we can spend some time at the table talk, and I have copies of the report. I also have a postcard where you can download the report or even play with the data on our interactive website. So as I mentioned, this was a collaborative effort between Erickson Institute, the Illinois Early Childhood Asset Map, and Voices for Illinois Children, the Fiscal Policy Center, to come together to create a curated set of data indicators on child well-being. There were 15 risk indicators that represent the risk factors in the environment that children are experiencing that could perhaps undermine child development, and 17 reach indicators that represent public investments and their reach across our state. The data is visualized in terms of heat maps and tables, and it's also shown to you at a county level. Accompanying the report is a fiscal scan, and that's where we dive really deep into the state budget to figure out what is the proportion of the investment in our state budget that specifically is going towards children 0 to 5. The primary audience for this report are our policymakers. It's really to help them understand that knowing the state of affairs, what do we have in terms of public investments and how have we deployed them equitably, or perhaps maybe not as equitably, to be able to mitigate those risk factors that we see in young children. So I usually like to start off by giving everybody a quick just overview of the entire Illinois population. This is the breakdown, our total population, 12.8 million, and this is the breakdown by race, ethnicity. But it shifts a little bit when you start to look at just the 0 to 5 population. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give a little plug for Census 2020. Which we are on the heels of, and what we need to also acknowledge is that our 0 to 5 population has been historically undercounted. Every one of us in the room has a responsibility to really help get the word out and get this information in the hands of families and children, because we know the census is totally connected to dollars for programs, particularly for young children, and democracy and representation in our government. So that's the conclusion of my census PSA, and back to the risk and reach. We put together an advisory council as we were constructing this report, because we really felt it was important that it wasn't just Erickson, ICAM, and Voices in a room determining how we are defining risk factors. And so 40 people came together, representative of stakeholders across the state, as well as different sectors. We had members of the General Assembly, we had philanthropic leaders, we had program leaders, we had beneficiaries, We had state agency representatives to really help us construct this operational definition of risk. And what you see, these were the 15 risk indicators that we selected. Now, as with everything, we always got to do things the Illinois way. Most reports like this only have 12 to 15 indicators for both risk and reach. Well, we had to do 32, and we had to do a fiscal scan, which made the report, and what you'll see, it's a very heavy report. It's 157 pages. It was supposed to be 60. So essentially, these were the indicators that made the cut. 2 criteria we determined. One was that we needed to make sure that there was a research base. Any of these indicators can connect back to the research base that would let us know that this particular indicator could undermine child development. We also needed data available at the county level. So that cut out a lot of the originally proposed indicators. I'm going to also orient you to a map here. And just this is what one of our spreads look like in the report, but I want to just kind of get you caught up to speed in how to read a map. So what you'll see is in the report, we have a map which always has, you know, the title. On the left, yeah, your left, oops, sorry about that. So, okay. So on the left side, you'll see that's the map in Erickson blue. It's a heat map. What you also see on the far left are the 4 categories of risk. And those categories of risk are low, low, moderate, high. And then we have a state average to help contextualize the data point, as well as a national average. And then the span of the percentage and proportion of risk factors in that particular data indicator. This one right here is maternal education. This represents, of the universe of moms, we're looking specifically at moms who are over the age of 20 without a high school diploma. This has been one of the closest indicators around child well-being. Has nothing to do with the capacity of the mom. It has more to do about if the mom is able to have access to and navigate systems to connect their child to the resources they need to be set up to thrive. And so in this indicator, you'll see that I have highlighted Peoria. The other part of our layout in the book are tables, which we're looking at. You can now start to drill down and look at it county level so that you can see the county, and we have Peoria, and out of all the moms, 233 births that happened in 2016. 233 of them were to moms without a high school diploma over the age of 20, which puts Peoria in the high moderate risk category. Now the risk category is assigned to your county's relationship to the mean of all the counties in the state. And so that gives us sort of a rankings. We also present data disaggregated by race ethnicity because we feel it's incredibly important to start to peel back the layers. You get one story when you look at it at a state level, another story when you look at it at a county level, a whole nother story when you start to look at it in terms of race ethnicity. And so what you see here is we wanted to really drill down in terms of how are each subgroup experiencing this particular indicator. The one that I have as an example is, of the universe of Latinx moms, 24% of them fall into that category of being over 20 without a high school diploma. Breaking data down in this way can really help us better understand how we target resources as well as interventions. This is a map that you'll find that we thought was really important to include, even though we didn't have a lot of data to show for it, because there has been a more heightened awareness about maternal morbidity in our state, and particularly the racial implications of maternal morbidity. And so what you see right here with this map is moms who either had a medical condition immediately after giving birth or up to 12 months. And what we see here is the majority of the map is white because there's no data available. But when you start to drill down and look at it from race ethnicity, you see that African American moms are experiencing maternal morbidity at twice the rate of the state. And this then helps us have some more direct conversations about systemic racism and the role that it plays in our healthcare system. So I'm going to cycle really quickly through the rest of these maps because what I want you to pay attention to are how the colors change. One powerful use of this particular tool is that it can disrupt our kind of master narratives that we have about certain geographies across our state. And what it helps us understand is that risk exists everywhere. And this gives us a level of precision to have some real specific conversations about how we're doing as a state to mitigate risk. So I'm going to just cycle through these so that you all can kind of get a good sense of how the colors are shifting. So this is parental employment. This is children 0 to 5 with no parent in the labor workforce. This is poverty. This is 0 to 5 living at poverty level, 100%. This is child care cost, representing the share that a family pays towards child care. You'll note that the state average is 10.6%. The federal government recommends 7%. This is housing cost burden. This is actually the universe of families that are paying more than 30% of their take-home pay towards housing. So you'll notice that the indicators are pretty comprehensive. Homelessness, this is kindergarten students reported as homeless by the McKinney-Vento liaison in school districts. This one was another controversial one because we know this data is incomplete, but we thought it was really important to call attention to it. Child maltreatment, this is a rate of per 1,000 children 0 to 5. These are the indicated reports of abuse or neglect. Drug overdose deaths, this is the universe of everyone, which we found, substance use disorder affects everyone. And so this is a rate per 100,000. Preterm births, 37 weeks, delivery, gestation, lead exposure, children who are tested for lead and are above the threshold that was just recently changed from 10 to 5. Violence exposure, this is a rate per 100,000 population. So violent crimes per 100,000. And that's the universe of everyone. Kindergarten readiness, this is the Kindergarten Individual Development Survey that was just recently rolled out a couple years ago. So these are the percentage of kindergartners that do not meet the threshold. Third grade proficiency language arts, this is the percentage of third graders that don't meet or exceed the threshold for proficiency. The same for math, and then we have an overall risk map. This is actually the adding up of the 15 indicators and then dividing it by 15 to get an overall risk score for each of the counties. So there's some good news and there's some not so good news. And I think what's important to recognize is that, we have 81% of our counties that are falling into that high risk on at least one indicator, 96% on that high moderate. But on the flip side, 3/4 of the counties that fall into that low or fall into that high risk actually have low to low moderate risk indicators, at least 2 of them. So it means that, we have some areas where we might be strong and we have some areas where we need some intentional support, and how can we learn? And so I'll just leave us there because I think we're at time. I want to just show you one last thing, and I'm going to cycle quickly through Peoria since we're right here. I thought it'd be interesting to drill down and look at Peoria. But I want you all to notice that of our counties, this is the breakdown of the categories, but it's really about where do the children live. And of all of our counties in the breakdown, our children, that 945,000, 643,000 live in counties that have that overall risk indicator of high, moderate, and high. That's 68% of our children. And the flip side of the report that shows reach, and I'll just show you one so that we can spend some time maybe at the table talking a little bit more deep, is that this is a breakdown of one of our reach maps. The base is that overall risk, and then those yellow dots represent the reach of a particular investment. This investment represents high quality childcare. Childcare programs rated at the gold level. Notice that the smallest dot is 0%. 0% access. And so what this particular map and what this tool can do is help you understand where are we doing a good job in distributing resources, and what are the barriers for us being able to have a more equitable distribution based on the need that young children are presenting in their environment. So I'll stop right there so that we can allow others to speak, and I'll be over here at the corner if you want to chat further about the report.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Carissa Hurley, who is the Director of Early Childhood at the Illinois State Board of Education.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to give you a few updates. That's going on at ETHNICITY, at the State Board. So we're happy we're getting to the end of our suspension and expulsion rules. We've been working on those for quite some time now. We did put them out for comment. We received about 108 comments from 21 different entities. And so we put all those comments together, and our board on September 18th, our state board approved those comments, the recommendations that were entered. And so now the next stage is that those comments will, that the final document, will go to JCAR. And it's with them now, and we're waiting to hear if they will have, if there's no objection, then those will be posted as the final rules. So we're waiting right now to see where those are, but we're much further along than we have been when I spoke before about this issue. So we're really excited about that. Something else that's going on is kids. You know, we're in the thick of our data collection for kids, and that's the kindergarten individual developmental survey that you just kind of heard a little about when Christina spoke. And so districts are beginning to enter their ratings for this fall and entering them into Kids Tech. One of the things we really want to encourage is if we have kids coaches out there, so if you need additional support, if you have questions about kids and how to use that data and what you should do with the data, please reach out to your coaches so that you can get that support. They can come to you no matter where you are in the state, so it's important that you utilize that resource that's there. And we're getting ready for our 3rd annual Mastering Kids Summit. And so that's going to be held December 12th and 13th. It's going to be in Bloomington Normal at the Marriott Hotel and Conference Center. So we have to save the date out. Within the next couple weeks, you'll get the actual invitation that will be coming out. We're encouraging all to come out, the administrators, anyone that wants to know, the teachers, anyone that wants to know more about kids. We're inviting you to this summit because there's going to be a lot of information to share here. And so it will be really good for you to be there. And then not only, now we're entering fall data, but there is an opportunity to enter data in the spring. So there are some districts that enter data more than one time during the year and be able to use that data in their classrooms to inform their lesson plans and things. So it's important that you take full advantage of kids. And I just wanted to put that out there. So the other big thing is our fiscal year 20 RFP process. As you know, we received quite a few applications for it this year. We actually received, for Preschool for All, we received 97 applications. Of that 97 applications, 82 were awardable. For Preschool for All expansion, we received 28, and of that 28, 26 were awardable. And for Prevention Initiative, there were 44, and of that 44, 33 were awardable. We had a total funding request of about a little over $64.6 million in ask. But we only had, we were only able to fund we had the ask of 64, and we were awardable for 56.3 million. But we were not able to fund all 56.3 million. There was 33 million in awardable proposals that we were not able to fund because we did not have enough appropriation to fund them all. We are currently in the appeal process, And the appeal process will end up on October 21st. And after that, then the final awards will go out to the programs. We had about 17 appeals that came in that our legal team is working on responding to. And so, of the money that we received this year, we did receive $50 million from the governor's office, but then after using money to sustain our currently funded programs, we had to fund our currently funded programs. Then we also looked at using some of that as funds for quality. So 75% of the money went for quality, and 25% went for quality, and 75% went to fund new programs. So currently funded programs that were funded in fiscal year 19, they received letters from us about there was a per pupil amount that they can get, and that would be an increase. And it's different from how we've done quality before. It was just that one time. This will be permanent in their awards. So 25% of the money went to that, 75% went to fund new programs. So again, by the end of October, the final award should be out. So if you are waiting on that final award letter, that will be coming out soon. If you have received a tentative award letter, you should not be spending anything. You should not be spending any money. You should not be purchasing any supplies or anything until you have received that final award letter. Because in that initial award letter, it said that it was tentative. So, and we have to wait till the appeal process is over before we put out the final awards. So lastly, there's the chronic absenteeism, that rule that are coming out. We have, there's a new law around chronic absenteeism, and so ISB, we are in the process of putting those rules into Part 235. And we're going to be putting in a new section under 235. It's 235.75, and it's going to be chronic absenteeism report and support. And so we're in the process of getting that together, putting those documents together, so you'll hear more about that. And then just so you know, chronic absenteeism is 10% if a child is absent a total of 10% or more of all the eligible school days, and that would be considered chronic absenteeism. And then from our special ed department, I'm just going to add that, I didn't have that up there, but our special ed department is working on rules for PA 100, 0515, and that is in regards to guidance documents that parents will receive prior to the IEP meeting. And so they are in the process of developing rules for that, but districts should start implementing the public act immediately. I think that is all we have going on, the highlights that we have going on at ISB. And I'll be around here afterwards, so if there's some specific questions that you need to ask, just, pull me aside. I'll be here during the table talk.
Thank you, Carissa. And next up, we have Donna Nylander from the Governor's Office of Early Childhood Development.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. What a great group wanting to know all about Illinois. It is my honor to represent the Governor's Office of Early Childhood Development. I am one of many players that work at the Governor's Office, and I have the first slide. Do we have? Yeah, these are the projects I would like to talk about, and each one of them is headed up by a different individual. So I will do my best to give you some highlights of those, and then when we come to the table talk, I will be able to give you the lead person at the Governor's Office that you could gather more information if you choose to. So the first thing we have is the PDG, the Preschool Development Grant, Birth to 5. The renewal is just dropped. And that is my counterpart, Lori Orr, is not here today because she is deep in grant writing. So It has just happened, but it's also due November 5th, so that you could see the quick turnaround time for that. So it's exciting. Two of the highlights of that, it's effectively coordinate with existing ECE programs to engage parents and prepare children to enter kindergarten. So you could see all this work we're talking about kids is so important. It's this collaboration that we want to keep seeing. And to analyze current landscapes of the ECC mixed delivery systems to maximize the ability of high quality programs and improve quality care and education. So those are just two big theme areas that we're going to be looking at to continue the work that we're doing in the PDG. Next. Okay, this is near and dear to my heart because I am the implementation director for the state of Illinois for the pyramid model. And we have a statewide pyramid model state leadership team that's a partnership with 21 state agencies. We've been in existence for 2 years, and we are making great interventions in the state of Illinois. This is a slide of the 21 agencies, and isn't that pretty? You need young people in your life, I say, to make pretty slides like that. So it's kind of small, but we have StarNet, we have Higher Ed, Illinois State University, the CCR&Rs, ISBE, DHS, Early Choices, Caregiver Connection, Ounce of Prevention, Action for Children, the Steens Foundation, DCFS, Chicago Public Schools, Early Intervention, the Center for Professional Learning, University of Illinois, Early Learning Council, and Head Start, to name almost all of them. The pyramid model began at University of Illinois in 2001, so I kind of like to say we're a little bit of slow learners, but we got there. So this is just one visual that I like to share because we started with the 25 federal PDG grants, and they came on board first, and they are part of the what we have the leadership team at the state level, and then they have program leadership teams. And so they began, we have a master cadre that you'll see at the next level, and every one of those teams get what we call a coach, a process coach, that guide them through implementation. So they're in their second year of providing implementation. They have these, it's benchmarks of quality, a framework that works on all the levels of social emotional development. Because that was really the driving factor of this, that every time we had surveys, any level of teachers from childcare to Head Start to public school would say challenging behavior was the #1 need, and particularly taking the most at-risk children into our full-day programs, there was a need definitely to address this issue. So then we meet the needs with this leadership team. We've done extensive training on the modules. We've done training on inclusion, on teaching strategies. Then we've done the children that reach the tip of the pyramid on prevent, teach, and prevent for staff as well as families. So positive solutions for families. So it's a combination across the board on making a difference. And then we then get the data because we have interventions like the TPOT. It's the Teaching Pyramid Observation Tool, where we can gather data, as well as the coaching that's happening. And we also have, it's also a Birth to 3 program, and we have a tool called the Tippy Toes. Cutest names ever, right? And so those are the instruments that we are using. So we now also have Head Start, has a cohort that just began in the spring of 19 with 8 programs, and their regional office is doing their coaching for them. We have childcare has trained 50 of their staff in all the modules, the infant, toddler, and the preschool modules, and practice-based coaching, and that is huge. People are telling us, the instructional leaders in program, it's making such a difference for them. Also educating and training workshops for parent educators are helping them get a focus as well. So we've surveyed the administrators in these programs, and we got 100% back of the surveys, which is unheard of. And 91% of them says there is so much potential to improve social emotional outcomes by using the pyramid model. And 83% of says that they believe this is going to be reducing suspension and expulsion. So just those statistics alone are really positive for us. So you could see the feedback loop and the support loop. We believe that we want to continue the support, having a master cadre, would-be experts with the fidelity to support programs, because we know alone or one-shot training isn't all. We want to do this implementation science for success. This slide is just the pathways to access. So you can see we want to make this a seamless system. It's just not about one system. So we're working with the child care and all the systems, Head Start, the preschool programs, early intervention, home visiting, and higher ed. Higher ed is called Early Ed U Alliance, and all these materials are at no cost, even the coursework in the university. So they have 6 courses, they have 15 sessions, and they have over 2,400 videos. And they have what they call a coaching companion that goes along with that. So the student actually sees what it looks like, then goes out and practices it, and then come back and shows their work. And so it's really wonderful. So we're looking with the university arm to see the potential of also at the higher ed level. So this is, we have an introductory webinar that's going to be available and posted on the OECD website so that people will start beginning to know how to access this. The Center for Professional Learning is also providing e-modules for at no cost to our PFA programs, so that they can also do that because it's so challenging to get subs and get people out to projects. Our next initiative is the Early Childhood Workforce. And their initiative is all children have access to quality early care and education services by qualified, valued, and supported workforce. So one of the pathways is the college dual credit. So one thing they're working on is to introduce high schools and communities on how students in child education programs can get credits when they work with the colleges. So that's an initiative that they're trying to work with. There's about 15 in the state of Illinois that is working to identify and work with them. And so the high school teacher gathers these students, and so they get the dual credit then when they graduate high school, and they have this credit towards an early childhood credential. So that's happening. And it's also, you probably all know the Gateways ECE credential level 5. And of course we need more teachers. So this is, it's eligible to teachers in PFA classrooms while they're working toward their professional education license, their PAL. So that's very exciting. That's happening under the workforce. And they're also, doing a lot of work and researching a lot about compensation as well. Carissa touched on suspension and expulsion, and I just want to add to that the rules have come out for DCFS. That has just happened, so that's really exciting. And the comment period is open until November 16th. So you will find these proposed rules under the Children and Family Services Departments of the licensing standards for daycares and homes, and also for group homes and in their care. So this is exciting to have this out for the first time as well. We're getting close. And they also did a training, a trainer of trainers across the state of Illinois. They trained 118 individuals across Head Start and child care and public school to become trainer of trainer models, so they could get the word out consistently across the state of Illinois about what the public law is and what that means, and the guidance and the recommendations for that as well. Okay. Next, we have Accelerate. You're probably familiar with the Accelerate system, which is our bronze, silver, and gold system, our recognition and improvement system. Well, we're Tom Lehman and Jamila Jordan are working to redesign this system. It was supposed to be, the expectation was to revise it after 4 and 5 years. Hard to believe it's been that long already. So they're looking at the topic areas of the foundations of the quality of those levels and the process, the quality for that continuous quality improvement. Are we putting enough in there to, when you get those levels, do you know what to do next to even go to the next level? And then the process quality for professional development. How do we embed that into making people really understand and focus and target that professional development around the need? The next one is Prenatal to 3 initiative, and what is that? And the Governor's Office and the Ounce of Prevention are leading a new process to develop a policy agenda for expansion of prenatal to 3 services across systems. There will be multiple opportunities for engagement, more information, and Karen Berman at the Ounce of Prevention is the lead on this initiative, but it's to increase the number of families connected to health, development, and social emotional supports, increase the number of low-income infants and toddlers receiving affordable health care, coordinating again, that coordination with statewide initiatives, so we're not replicating services, and so we have that comprehensive and cohesive support. And I think I have one more. It's affectionately called MIECHV, the Maternal Infant Early Childhood Home Visiting Project. Leslie Swartz is our project director, and this is completing its 6th year, and it supports voluntary home visiting for pregnant women and parents with children up to kindergarten age, and there is no cost. Penny is in our room that could speak to this much more eloquently. Last year provided services to over 800 families in 12 targeted high needs communities, and they have now contracted with 36 agencies to provide universal screenings and referrals in 13 at-risk communities. So that's a real highlight, just a snippet.
Thank you, Donna. Next up, we have Maria Maddox, who is a professional development coordinator at the Early Intervention Training Project at the University of Illinois.
Hello. I'm actually here representing, in addition to the Early Intervention Training Program at the University of Illinois, the Department of Human Services, the Bureau of Early Intervention. So I'm here to talk from that perspective today. Let's just kind of talk a little bit about, well, am I going? There we go. Okay, just want to show a little bit about the big picture in early intervention. We've had a busy year, busy last few years, in fact. During the state fiscal year of 2019, we served almost 23,000 children and families through active IFSPs throughout the state. That is an increase of about 3% over the previous year, and in serving those children, we've provided over 1.8 million service visits for those children, which is an increase of almost 4%. So we have been pretty busy. Budget-wise, we've got a pretty significant budget of 160 plus million. And of that, we have about 43.4 million that goes to our contracting agencies that work with us, which I'll explain those here in a moment. And the rest then goes to our providers that provide all of our services for early intervention families. This last year, we were able to get an increase in our appropriations, which was great because our services have increased. The children that we're serving have increased, so we really needed that increase to be able to meet the needs of the children and families that we're serving. So it's kind of a big picture of where we are in EI. But I want to just share a little bit about our program itself. So at the Bureau of Early Intervention, DHS is the lead agency for early intervention. And in our state, they're staffed for 12. But they've had 4 vacancies, and they've had vacancies for years. So they run it on, I don't want to say a skeleton crew, but it's pretty tight. These guys are working lots of time. And also, based on the number of children that we serve, our staff is probably the smallest of many of those other states out there that are serving birth to 3. Now, because of that, they do rely on partners in the system. So our system looks a little different than other states. We use a lot of collaborations between different programs to help us meet the needs of the children and families. So our first one is the CFC. So we have 25 Child and Family Connections offices throughout the state. They are our system point of entry. So whenever a referral is made for a child in birth to 3, that's where they go. And within the CFCs, there are a variety of different staff persons. We have service coordinators who help families get connected to services. They help families understand our program philosophy. They also help those families in building, in capacity building activities and to facilitate their child's development. And they are kind of our lead personnel that start off within the families. Also at the Child and Family Connections offices, we have other roles there as well. We have individuals that serve as parent liaisons who provide supports to families from a parent's perspective, you know, been there, done that, kind of providing that guidance. That doesn't require anything beyond, you know, that doesn't require anything more than some just peer-to-peer support. We also have social-emotional consultants that work not only within the CFC, but within the providers that are working within that area to provide supports for them as well. We have individuals that work with us as pediatric consultants, so that provide us with quality assurance and assist us with any of the more medical issues that may arise when we're working with our children and families. And last but not least, we have LIC coordinators. So LIC is the local interagency councils. We have the coordinators that work at the CFCs that coordinate meetings and coordinate those that are in that community or in that service area that have a special interest in working with children and families and trying to continue a collaborative, cooperative effort amongst all the programs that exist. So that is our first contractor that we work with within our early intervention system, and they're one of our biggest because they do serve as our system point of entry. We also have Provider Connections, and Provider Connections is the entity that is responsible for credentialing and enrollment in for all of the providers that work within our system. Everyone has to meet certain criteria in order to get a credential and to be able to provide services, quality services to our infants and families. We have the EI training program, with which I actually am employed, and we provide high quality professional development for those of you who are working within early intervention. We offer a lot of methods of professional development, face-to-face, online, synchronous and asynchronous webinars, all sorts of varieties of different methods, and so we hope you check us out. We also have the EI monitoring. EI monitoring is the group that is responsible for ensuring quality services are being provided to our children and families. They are responsible for providing a yearly monitoring for our Child and Family Connections offices, as well as an almost yearly monitoring of every provider in our system to make sure that not only is are they meeting the needs of the IFSP on each individual child, but also, providing appropriate supports and services for that. And let's see here. The Clearinghouse, if you haven't been familiar with the Clearinghouse is a collaborative effort that we all access, and is a great resource, a library of information that provides supports for any type of disability or diagnosis, any type of information that you might need for children with special needs. Okay. And let's see, I think there's one more there, the Central Billing Office. We must not forget them. They are responsible for paying our providers, and everyone knows how to get a hold of the Central Billing Office. So when our providers do provide the service, our system is a fee-for-service model, so our providers will bill the Central Billing Office for services and get paid in that realm. So that's a little bit about our structure in the early intervention program services system. But we also have some other engagements that we're involved with, and so I just want to touch on these really quick. The first is we've got a collaboration between early intervention and the home visiting programs. So there were surveys that went out to individuals that work within both of those systems to say, well, what do you know about your partner here? And what we discovered was kind of a lot of confusion. So we're working collaboratively with home visiting to provide some cross-training between the systems to make sure that each of the systems knows the other's referral process, knows the eligibility process, and also working within early intervention to ensure that children who maybe don't necessarily meet the eligibility criteria for EI, that we are making steps to ensure that referrals are being made to home visiting as well. Along those same lines, we've got a collaborative effort with DCFS and the child welfare to increase collaborations and trainings between our two programs as well, because again, some confusion of what the eligibility criteria are, how do you work together when you have a family that has an indicated case of abuse or neglect and they're still in the home, and EI's coming in as well, and how do those partners work together? So we're developing resources that can benefit both child welfare workers and early intervention providers to help make that relationship a little bit more seamless. Let's see, we have the MIECHV, so the trauma-informed care. We're working a lot with developing new resources for informing providers on trauma and the signs and effects with children. In fact, I think we are having a session on that here in Sharing a Vision. I don't know if it's today or tomorrow, but we've been providing a lot of professional development around that. The Military Families Learning Network, which is also part of our program as well, has got a lot of webinars, and so they've got some introductory information on there. The EI training program is putting together more more deeper dives into this as well, so be on the lookout for additional trainings on trauma-informed care. And just the last couple here, let's see, Donna talked about the pyramid model, so I don't want to there's not much more to say about that. You did. And other than, I can say something. Other than that, we're focusing, I think the first few years were more on the 3 to 5, and now we're working more towards the birth to 3. So you're going to be seeing some more information on and working on developing master cadre of trainers for working within the birth to 3 population. And also, Donna, you talked about the prenatal to 3 entity, so EI is a part of that as well. And then last but not least, we are working with all of our professional organizations that provide services to children. So the ISHA and the Illinois Physical Therapy Association and all of the other professional development, professional organizations to develop processes and collaborate to make sure that we're all sharing the same message and getting the word out. So that, I think, about covers all that I have for now, but I will be sitting right over here to address other questions that you may have related to early intervention. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. So I just want to make one addition that didn't make it to print time, is we also have Sherry Huber here, who is a representative from the Illinois Council for Exceptional Children, which is where the DEC is the Division for Early Childhood of the Council for Exceptional Children. She will be sitting at the table with the kids in B to 3 alignment, which is table 7, if you'd like to talk to her about her professional organization and what's coming up for them, and hearing about their upcoming conference. So I'd like to thank our panel for sharing the updated information with us, and I also like to take this moment to thank all of the other representatives. There are many principal consultants here from Illinois State Board of Education and other entities, so I'd like to thank them as well. We're going to switch to the coffee talk section of our time now, so feel free to stay where you are and ask the questions you need to ask, and then move freely for the rest of the session. Thank you.